Forging links.
Forging links.
Forging links, one person at a time.
Guys, welcome back to the Forging Links channel. My name's Kirsten McDonald. Today I'm going to share a video with you from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Now this guy's incredible, and he's driven by the conviction that each of us has the potential for greatness and unlimited abilities. He has a whole lot of talks detailing how we can rewire our brains and recondition our bodies to make lasting changes. So I'll leave this with you. Enjoy.
A good way to see that is that everybody does it. Like everybody does that all the time. And here's the problem. All of that is fine. The problem is that they're looking through the lens of the past, that reality. They're seeing their future through the lens of the past. They can't see possibility because they can't think greater than how they feel. Or feelings have become the means of thinking. And if you believe that your thoughts have anything to do with your destiny, then you're thinking in the past because those emotions are driving your thoughts, and those emotions are the familiar records of the past, right? So let me just go one step further. So that is how people reaffirm themselves every single day into a known identity. And let's just say the trauma or the betrayal or the loss or the shock or the diagnosis was a profound moment that created a strong emotion, and that person doesn't think that they have any control of regulating and changing that emotion because it's visceral, it's somatic, it's real, they feel it. And that disturbance, that known, they'd rather cling to that pain, they'd rather cling to that suffering than to take a chance and possibility to step outside the unknown. Now the hardest part, I'm getting to time by the way, the hardest part about all of this then is not making the same choices you did the day before. So the moment you start to realize that you complain, that you blame, that you make excuses, that you feel sorry for yourself, that you judge others, that you react emotionally to your spouse, to your ex, to your coworker, to traffic, the moment you become conscious that you're doing that and you say, I'm going to stop, well, the body now, the servant, that is now the mind. The servant is now the master. So now the body's clinging to the known, and you say, okay, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to suffer anymore. You make a different choice, and the body says, well, wait a second, Jonathan, you've been doing that for 30 years. So you just, what? So the body starts influencing the mind. It starts sending signals back to the brain and says, you can't do this, it's too hard, start tomorrow, it's your mother's fault, it's your culture's fault, it's this, it's your past. And if you accept, believe, and surrender to that thought as if it's true without really having a critical analysis of it, it slips right by your conscious mind and it causes you to make the same choice that leads to the same behavior that will reproduce the same experience. And there you are on the couch feeling the same emotion and you say, this feels right. Well, no, that feels familiar, right? So that's how people live in the known. They live in the past. So the predictable future then is everybody gets up in routine and they're on autopilot and they run through a series of automatic behaviors. And if you do that enough time, a habit is a redundant set of automatic unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. Do it enough times, the body will now know how to do it better than the conscious mind. It becomes implicit, right? So now most people lose their free will to a set of programs and their body's dragging them into a predictable future based on what they did in the past. And that predictable future is the known as well. So if the familiar past is the known and the predictable future is the known, there's only one place left where the unknown exists, and that's really the sweet spot of the generous present moment. And when we truly can become relaxed and dial down the stress hormones that cause us to live in survival, that causes us to try to anticipate the worst case scenario, that remembers the past. If we can work with the body and be greater than the body, to be greater than our attention on every element in our environment, and truly labor for the present moment, that unknown, which has been conditioned into the human being to be a scary place, because in survival, you run from the unknown. If you can teach people to actually relax into the present moment and relax into that place, that's the unknown. That's where possibility exists, and we all do it. And getting to that elegant moment then, time tends to alter. You think only 10 minutes went by, but an hour and a half went by. And where were you? Well, as your brainwaves slow down in this process, when you're in like a thinking analytical place, like we are right now, we're in these brainwave patterns called, you understand, it's beta brainwave patterns. But as you slow your body down and it starts moving to alpha, alpha waves tend to cause time to seem a little bit more elongated. When you're in theta, which is when you're half awake and you're half asleep and you're relaxed and awake, in that level of theta, time, one moment seems really long. So you have an extension of time. And it turns out that you can teach people how to do this. And when you do, their autonomic nervous system begins to regulate back into order, and stress is autonomic dysregulation, and all of a sudden the person has a sense of energy, a sense of euphoria, a sense of freedom, a sense of clarity. Their brains, we've measured this, their brains start firing in more order and more coherence. It oscillates and synchronizes. Different compartments of the brain or communities of neurons are working together, and you start feeling more whole, more like yourself. In the understanding of yoga, as an example, if you're truly, really into the act, you forget about all your problems, you forget about all the things you got to do, you forget about what happened yesterday. Breathing is a way to really change your brainwaves. As we've studied this thousands of times. You slow your breathing down, you slow your brainwaves down. You slow your brainwaves down, you stop analyzing and thinking. When do you overanalyze and overthink? When you're in high beta. And when's that? When you're threatened, when you feel danger, when the stress hormones are running. And we've studied the brain when this happens, and when you're analyzing your life within that disturbing emotion, I can guarantee you're gonna make your brain worse. In fact, your thought of the problem is actually producing the very chemistry to arouse you further out of balance. So teaching people how to find that generous present moment and actually relax in the unknown and dissociate from their body, dissociate from their environment, and dissociate from time, the predictable future, and the familiar past, causes them, for some reason, to get a reboot in their nervous system. And they think, oh God, it must have been 10 minutes. And oh my God, it was an hour and a half. That to me is taking all of your attention or disinvesting all of your attention out of this three-dimensional reality. And that's when the door to creation or the mystical moment really begins to happen for people. What it really comes down to is, how do we get branded emotionally, and we all have events in our life that have strong emotional quotients. And the stronger the emotion you feel from some event outside of you, the more altered you feel inside of you, the more your physiology changes. The moment of that change, you have to pay attention to the cause, and the brain freezes a frame and takes a snapshot or a series of snapshots, and that's called a long-term memory. So every time the person thinks about their past, they're producing the same chemistry in their brain and body as if the event is happening. And the redundancy of that cycle is causing the brain and body to hardwire that memory and emotionally condition the body into the past. And that person's identity, that person's state of being, is literally in the known, in the familiar known.
Forging links.
Forging links, one person at a time.